I spent most of my 20s convinced that if I could just get the right body, everything else would fall into place. The boyfriend, the confidence, the life I actually wanted. But no matter how many hours I put in, the guy in the mirror was never enough. And I didn't know that wasn't normal. I just thought that's what being gay felt like. And looking back now at photos from the last 15 years of my life, I wish I could have loved who I was then instead of what I was actually doing, which was punishing him. But let's go back to the beginning, to the first time I ever saw a gay man's body. I was a teenager on dial-up internet, and the image took about 4 minutes to load. And when you want to see a picture of a naked man, the good part is in the lower third of the picture. So that was some high stakes couple of minutes praying that your parents didn't walk in, which they did. Once we had DSL internet, that's when my exposure to studio clips and videos from Sean Cody and Corbin Fisher began. And I think that was the point where the internalization started. The idea that if I wanted sex or companionship, I had to look like those models. So even though I had started to fantasize about men and sex, I was actively fighting it. I was raised Southern Baptist, Republican, in Texas. So just being gay meant that I was going to hell. It was just the religious reality I grew up in. So I could not imagine a future of being out and gay and successful, of being happy. Because back then in the early 2000s, in that environment, being gay wasn't survivable. At school and activities in my town, it wasn't an option. It wasn't even a conversation. The only version of gay that I saw was through a screen. There was no example of a normal gay relationship. I remember watching Will and Grace, and while it was groundbreaking at the time, Will and Jack's failures at dating were played for laughs. So the version where I did see gay men together, lovingly, was in porn. So that became the ideal. Once I began college, I started going to my university's gym when I was 19. And since I'd never lifted weights before, I had noob gains, and I gained a bit of muscle pretty quickly. But I was still a stick, maybe 90 pounds, soaking wet, if that. And when I would fantasize about being with a guy, it wasn't me in my current body. I always imagined myself looking like one of the models from a Sean Cody video, because that guy got attention. That guy got the companionship. So even though my body was physically changing, it was nowhere near what the ideal was in my head. But by the time I knew I was gay, I had already built an impossible standard for what a gay man's body looked like. After college, I moved back home for a bit, and there was a summer where all I did was go to the gym and eat. I was 23 or 24, and my grandparents would take me to lunch every day, and I'd eat a chicken breast and vegetables and go to the gym. And then I'd have a protein shake and cottage cheese before bed, and I would do it all again every day for 3 months. I gained about 20 pounds, and that was the first time I thought, oh, I have some muscles. Maybe I'm more attractive. Maybe guys would actually give me attention. And they did, but I was always looking for the next relationship to tell me that I was enough. I was looking for validation from relationships rather than from myself. And this would continue for a long, long time. At 25, I moved to Los Angeles, and I had no idea I was heading into the worst possible environment for everything I'd internalized in my head. I remember driving my car overstuffed with all of my belongings from Texas down Santa Monica Boulevard into West Hollywood for the first time, and seeing the guys walking down the street shirtless, I legit nearly wrecked my car from rubbernecking. And I remember I passed some apartment or a house that had like a window into the bathroom, and I could see this guy showering inside. The window didn't go to the floor or anything, but I saw his wet, ripped body, and I just thought, oh my God, these are gorgeous men. I'm not saying there weren't attractive guys in Texas, but this was on another level. I don't know if there's anywhere else that has the density of low body fat, high muscle mass gay men in a confined area than West Hollywood. It's the epicenter of gay male body standards in America. So that meant that this was probably the most dangerous environment for me, because what was a fantasy from porn was now my everyday reality. I'd go to the grocery store, to a park, if I left my apartment. Hell, I didn't even have to leave my apartment. There were gay men in my apartment building on Grindr that were in peak physical shape. I was surrounded by it. And that's when I went off the deep end. I started tracking my calories, my macros. I went to the gym 4 to 5 times a week. I felt like I was the bottom of the barrel for being desirable. I could not compete with a number of hotter guys that were less than a foot away from me. And not just for sex, but for a relationship at all. I had the subconscious link from my teenage years that to be wanted for a relationship with a man at all meant I had to be sexually desirable. And then somehow, against all of that, I was granted a miracle. One time. My first boyfriend in LA was a hot, in shape guy, but also incredibly smart and kind and soft-spoken and thoughtful, and it was great. And he went to the gym and he had a really healthy diet, but I don't remember him ever saying things about not liking his body. He might have felt that way and it might have been internal for him, but I was the one that felt like I had to keep up with him so he wouldn't leave me. That was never something he said or threatened. It was just my own insecurity. I remember I hadn't been to the gym in a couple of weeks because I was working and I was spending time with him, and I had spent the night at his place. And I woke up and went to the bathroom at like 6 a.m. in the morning, and there was very low light, and I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. And I thought, my stomach is round. It's pudgy, like there's fat covering the bottom of my abs. And I broke down in tears. I cried in my boyfriend's bathroom at 6 a.m. in the morning about how fat I was. Like, how could I have let myself get that way? I was 26. I don't know if I ever thought about that, like ever. But there was a silver lining. The sex was great. That was my heated rivalry era, which just comes from being 26. The testosterone was off the charts. But he ended up moving to get his PhD, and so that ended. After him, I doubled down with the gym and the macros because, unfortunately, now I had set a precedent. I had gotten the hot boyfriend who was the super rare guy that had the brains and the brawn, so if I wanted that again, I'd have to be in the best shape of my life. I thought I needed to look like what I wanted, but like what I was attracted to, because how could I want that in someone else if I didn't also have those same qualities? As gay men, we have the unfortunate curse of wanting someone and wanting to be them. Because I wasn't getting validation from guys in real life, from Tinder or from Grindr, I tried getting it from social media instead. I posted stories and photos when I went to the gym, when I went on a hike or to the beach. And at the time I thought I looked okay, but I wanted to be bigger. I was still a twink, and I hated that. I didn't want a guy that was a twink, I wanted a twunk or a jock, so I had to become one too. Here's some of those photos and videos from back then, and looking at them now, I look so sad. I was so unhappy. I didn't know that at the time. I just thought that was what being gay felt like, and I genuinely thought that if I could get more muscle, I'd find the guy. I believed that if I fixed my body, it would fix my love life. And in that environment, I became part of the problem. I went through a phase where I would only hook up with guys who had six-pack abs. I'm not proud. I remember one hookup. I could not believe this guy invited me over. He was a Greek statue. He had the body I could only dream of having. And as things started, he was leaning back on his couch and he looked down at me and he said, "Are you actually going to try, or do you just want to go?" And I was trying so hard. I was doing every trick, everything I'd ever seen before or I could think to do. And to him, it was nothing. That was humiliating. But I did think, wow, this guy is the biggest asshole. But I didn't have enough self-respect to leave, so things continued. He had a full-length mirror, and I remember looking at that because I couldn't bring myself to look him in the eyes again. I was so embarrassed. And during it, I looked at my body and I thought, wow, I look amazing. Maybe in that moment, in that trauma, it was the first time I actually saw myself without the dysmorphia lens. And that's when finally the fantasy, the delusion cracked. And I had the realization that just because your body is in amazing shape, that doesn't make up for your personality or how you treat people. And I left that encounter thinking, even though my body may not be as great as his, I'm a nice person. And he was a prick. And just because someone has a great body doesn't mean they get to treat you like you're less than. And the majority of the sex I had with those guys was terrible anyway. Not all of them, of course, but it finally sunk in that there was no correlation between physical appearance and good sex. Duh, right? And even less of a connection between how hot someone is and their maturity or emotional intelligence. And now, after over 10 years of believing that if I looked a certain way, I would find my diamond in the rough, that my love life would be fixed, I acknowledged that it didn't. And it couldn't. Because what I want is companionship. I want cuddling and road trips and movie nights and late mornings, and those things are all way more important to me than wanting a guy with a six-pack. But body dysmorphia doesn't disappear instantly. After 7 years, I moved out of West Hollywood, and not being around those extreme body types all the time helped. Not seeing the statuesque male bodies every day, it reduced the number of times I compared to myself. And then the pandemic hit. And without any possibility of dates, I did not care what I looked like. I went back through my photos and I looked at the ones I'd taken over the last 10 years, and it was like I was looking at a different person. We really do look back on ourselves with much kinder eyes than we had at the time. Because I looked amazing, but that's not how I remembered it. My main thought during the pandemic was, damn, like I would kill to look like that again. But at the time I took the photo, I thought I looked terrible. I thought I was the dregs of gay men. I literally treated myself worse than I would have ever treated anybody else. That was incredibly mean of me to do, and punishing, and impossible to succeed. The truth is, it didn't matter what I looked like. The body dysmorphia would never go away regardless of the body I built, because I was the one creating the impossible standard. My body was never the problem. I was. Maybe I'm enough. Maybe just me, flaws and all, could be what someone is attracted to. I wish I could go back to that 26-year-old and tell him to stop comparing your body to what you see in WeHo or online. Live your life and have adventures and make mistakes instead of beating yourself up and trying to fix what you don't have. I laugh because, I used to hate being called a twink, and now if somebody says that about me, I'm like, oh my God, thank you. That is so kind. Another realization that's come with aging is that being in amazing shape takes time. Going to the gym, eating cleanly, hitting your macros. It means you have the time in your schedule to do that. I had the time to do that last year, and I think it's the best I've ever looked in my life, but that's not sustainable for me. And I'm not going to punish myself when life doesn't allow for it. And when I see other guys in great shape now, I think, good for them. They have the time to do that. But if I want to partner with a full life, that physique isn't going to be the baseline, because I know that my body changes all the time. If you only want me when I have abs, then you want a trophy, not a person. More recently, I've seen family members get older and their health deteriorates. I've been reading more about longevity, and I know that as I get older, my physical health and staying in shape will get harder to do. So now I go to the gym, not because I think it'll make me more attractive to guys, but because I want to be healthy and active in 10, 20, 30 years from now. So while I still track my calories and my macros and I go to the gym multiple times a week, I'm doing it now for my future self, so he can have a long, quality life. Hopefully with a caring partner who also likes cuddling and road trips and movie nights and late mornings together. If you spent time punishing yourself for not looking a certain way, and if you tied that to whether you deserved love, you're not alone, and it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. And I get it, because I did it to myself for a long time. What did you think would finally make you feel good enough? Leave a comment and let's talk. And subscribe for more honest conversations. Be kind to yourself. See you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, gay it forward and watch another one. And you can feel good because your click supports a fellow gay. Or if you are not gay, well, thank you for being an ally. And don't worry, you can't catch it, right? Or can you? Nope, you're good. Woo!